Judge Ruppersberger is the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, my guest now in Baltimore, Maryland. Sir, good morning to you, and thank you for coming back here to
Good morning.
America's Newsroom. Is O'Reilly right? Should we get a declaration of war on this group?
Well, it's how you define that. To begin with, what we're doing right now, if you're talking about putting troops on the ground, putting infantry and tanks, that's not where we're going to go, and that's not how we're going to defeat ISIS. If you're talking about protecting American lives, protecting our homeland and Americans wherever they go, that's what our focus is right now. So, you know, we are right now, this next couple days in Congress, are going to vote on a bill that will give monies to the administration to help train what we have in Syria, the moderate opposition. And that is part of the strategy to move forward and taking out ISIS, who's killed American public, cut their heads off, and we're going to stand up to that.
So you're saying no declaration of war. But what is the House willing? What is the House willing to give? Because it appears that Republicans in the House are willing to give quite a bit.
Well, I would hope we can give the resources to the administration. Remember, we have the best military and the best intelligence in the world, but it costs money, and we have to give them the resources to do the job. That's why this sequestration thing has to be reevaluated to make sure that we have what we need to protect Americans and our allies. And Congress does feel very strongly, as the American people, that we have to do what we have to do to take out ISIS. Now, there's been a lot of complaints about coalition building, I think. And as far as coalition building, that's the way we need to go, especially the Arab countries that surround this area and are dealing with ISIS every day. The major strategy is to get the Sunni population to stand up against ISIS. And that's what we're doing, and we're coordinating that right now. But we can't respond to national media, or we can't respond to other pundits that are making comments one way or another. We have to do what our professionals are advising the president, our military and our intelligence, and take them out.
Now, respond to this. I mean, even leading General Lloyd Austin has been reported that, you know, he's saying you can't do it without putting some sort of force on the ground. And what he's recommending is you don't have to go with a whole battalion. You could go in there with special ops and put special forces on the ground, and short of that, you cannot be successful. What do you think of that?
Well, I agree. You eventually need troops on the ground, but you don't need American troops on the ground. We have tremendous resources where we can back up the troops on the ground, and that's the focus. But again, we're not going to tell people and the enemy when we're coming in and what we're going to do, whether it relates to Syria or what we're doing right now. We just took out some more ISIS men and equipment just last night, and we're going to continue to do that because ISIS had great momentum until we came in and used our firepower to take them back on their heels, and that's where we're going right now.
If we don't do it, who will, though? I mean, you talk about other...
Well, you know, that's the issue. We can't share for the whole world, but we are the strongest country in the world, and we're coordinating, we're leading, and we're pulling people together, and we're training people, and we have our Americans in these countries training the military to make sure that they can stand up. And it's not going to happen overnight either. This is going to be a long process, more to get the hearts and minds of the people. Look at Iraq. You just can't win a war, especially against ISIS, by the military intervention. It didn't happen in Iraq. We had a leader in Maliki who totally shoved out the Sunnis and the Kurds, and look what happened. It allowed for ISIS to grow. And so we've got to get the countries to stand up.
Others would argue, too, if you kept the force behind, ISIS would not have grown. And on the Intelligence Committee, you know how critical that intelligence and good intelligence is. How much better would our intelligence be had we kept that small force behind?
The small force where? Syria, or are you talking about Iraq?
We're talking about in Iraq. Would ISIS even
If you're talking about Iraq, we wanted to stay in Iraq. Now, let's get this straight. We've got to deal with the facts. And Iraq wanted us out of the country. They would not give us an immunity for our troops who were there. We could not tolerate that in any country, to be in a country where our men and women in the military could be arrested and go pursuant to their system. So we were basically told, leave Iraq. Now we're back in, and we need to do what we need to do. But the issue was the leadership that took over in Iraq, and that's how ISIS was able to grow. They're dangerous, but we're going to take them on and do what we have to do to protect Americans.
I am well out of time, but we'd really like to have you come back.